Good afternoon, fourth graders. How are you today? I hope you're feeling great. Last time, as you remember, we started this lesson 4 from Unit 5, page 49, which is explore the value of respecting older people. We read the conversation. We discussed the vocabularies. Any questions regarding the vocabularies, please send it to me. Last time we read this conversation. Let's read it again together and try to remember what was the conversation about. One cold, snowy afternoon, Kim and Glenn were at their grandparents' house. I'm bored. I'm going to play a computer game. Do you want to play, Grandma? No, thanks. Did you like games as a child? Yes, but I played outside. When it was cold, we played on sleds. Sleds? Can we play on them now, please? Yes, there are 2 on the floor in the garage. But put on your coats and gloves. They slide down the hill on the sleds. We are faster than you. We are flying. Grandma and Grandpa are cool. Now, my questions are, what do you think the story was about? What do you think the problem was with Kim and Glenn? What was happening? And how can you appreciate older people? We know appreciating people by respect, but what is it in particular from the story? Is it appreciate older people or help older people? What do we mean by respect? Think about the story. Have a minute to think. You can pause the video for a minute. Think what was the problem, what was the story about, and try to guess it. To help you guess what was the story about here, I'm going to help you a little bit. What do you think Kim and Glenn were feeling here? Were they excited or bored? What do you think was going on here between the grandma and Kim? Do you think that the grandma and Kim played the same games and toys, or they had different games and toys? And tell me what's the difference between now and then. We said then. The word then means something happened in the past. What do you think was going on here? Were Kim and Glenn feeling excited or still bored? And what do you think was going on here? Now, if you guessed the story, what was about and what was the problem, then this is great. I'm going to tell you what was the story. The story was that Kim and Glenn were in a cold and snowy days, and they were obviously at their grandparents' house. They were feeling bored, as you see from the picture and what Glenn said. And Kim was thinking about playing a computer game. Where do you play computer games? Inside or outside? Why were they bored? Because it was snowy and they thought they couldn't have fun when it's snow and cold. But here, when Kim was talking to her grandma, she found out that she can have fun outside even when it's snowy and cold. As you see, the grandma told Kim that she used to play outside on sleds when she was a little girl. Here, as you see, Kim and Glenn were feeling excited and they are not bored anymore. And they were asking their grandpa if they can play on sleds. And of course, the grandpa agreed. He said yes. But he asked from them to put on their coats and gloves. Why do you think the grandpa asked Kim and Glenn to put on their coats and gloves? Well, the grandpa asked from them to put on their coats and gloves because it was snowy and cold, and these are winter clothes. Here, as you see, they were happy and playing along with their grandparents outside. They are not inside anymore. Here, as you see, Kim and Glenn describe their parents. Which impressions did they have on their grandparents? What they said about them? Can you tell me? Obviously here Kim and Glenn described their grandparents as cool grandparents. Moving on, if you see activity 2, read the story again and tick the value. The value here, in general, it's about respect. But in particular, respect here from the story means appreciate older people or help older people. Is respect only by, can you only respect people by helping older people or by appreciating older people? From the story, what do you think, Kim and Glenn? Did they only help their grandparents, or did they pay attention to what their grandpa and grandma say, and they listened to what their grandparents say? Think about it for a minute. From the story, we can conclude that Kim and Glenn actually paid attention to what their grandparents said. So, when you pay attention to someone, it means you are respecting and appreciating. So, respecting has to do with appreciating older people in everything, not only helping older people. Respect means to appreciate in all cases. So what you need to do is to appreciate older people. This is the value of our lesson today, because they listened, they respected and appreciated in all cases.